Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin dropped tonight. Wasn't sure if we were going to get the episode, but I think it was good. Denny took like a week and a half off to really digest the conclusion of the Phoenix race. It was even mentioned in the episode that us fans were really looking for the episode, looking forward to hearing what he had to say. Very good episode. Recommend checking it out. Denny gives a lot of insight into how he approached the championship for this year compared to how he approached battling Jimmy for a title in 2010 when it was the 10 race chase heading into Homestead and stuff, and just all the different like fan and friend experiences along the way. There's a little funny story in there about some guy named Ronnie, which makes me think of Ronnie Radke from Fallen in Verse. Different Ronnie, but they were just telling stories about this guy Ronnie that they know, and it was a riot hearing them talk about this dude. Just like the Chuck something or whatever, a Borat, like the Borat of the Phoenix weekend apparently. So check out the Denny Hamlin podcast episode. It's only about an hour long, and yeah. We're here on Who's That Driver. It's episode 27. I'm your host, as always, the asshole, as some might say, Zach Rogers, or the hothead. I actually won a hothead award at Fuel, which I thought was funny. I wish I had it pulled up in front of me right now so I could read off exactly what it said, but it said something about post-race banter and lukewarm hot takes. So I thought it was hilarious, poking fun at myself. I did think it was funny, so can't complain really on that front. But I'm joined this week by another kind of hybrid guest. He's delved in the offline and online sides of broadcasting. I believe he's done a little online racing as well. Mr. Caleb Colonel Rose. What's up, Caleb?
Zach, definitely gonna be a very interesting night here, and yeah, very very happy to be up here. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and definitely looking forward to it.
Right on. So first off, we'll just talk briefly about it. What did you think about the NASCAR Championship weekend? It has been a week now. Obviously, we had Corey Heim win the truck title, well deserved. We had Jesse Love kind of luck into, but also had a great race at Phoenix, winning the Xfinity title, and then of course Denny Hamlin heartbreak on Sunday. But Larson did have a great season overall. All of us that want overall standings for the whole 36 races, technically Larson would have won the title. So still a deserving champion, but had not won a race since May. So how do you feel that the championship weekend went?
Definitely, I would say kind of a bittersweet championship weekend. Of course, like you said, you had Corey Heim nabbing the Truck Series championship, which was awesome to see. Definitely a long time coming there for Corey Heim. I know it was only a couple of years, but that's a couple of years should have been Corey Heim's years. But nice to see Heim finally walk away there with the Truck Championship. Definitely kind of bummed to see that he doesn't have a ride next year, at least as far as I can see. But definitely hopes that he does end up getting a ride because he's definitely a very, very talented driver. And I especially showed it because that was a wild run to the finish there. He got that had that 7 wide moment there, which was absolutely wild. But then, of course, moving on to the Xfinity Series Championship. Of course, I was rooting for my man Connor Zilic. He had a spectacular rookie campaign. That's all I really have to say. That was absolutely incredible, and fortunately, just wasn't quite meant to be. Of course, I also really do like Jesse Love, so that was kind of a bittersweet night there on that end. But it's cool to see Jesse Love there win the title, but definitely very, very good up there for Zilch, especially considering the year that he had. But and then moving up to Cup, the bittersweetness continued. I honestly kind of wanted to see Hamlin win that championship. It would have definitely been a very feel good story, especially considering all the factors and all the storylines coming in. But virtually that just wasn't really meant to be as well. And Larson there on that final restart ended up getting the lead of the championship contenders, ended up holding on. And like you said, although he didn't get a win there since May, he was pretty consistent there throughout the whole season. Like you said, in the full season format, he would have won the championship. But I mean, it's still cool there for Larson having his second championship, but definitely have to feel bad for guys like Hamlin and Zilich missing out there. But definitely interesting. But I don't know. Phoenix is still I think Phoenix is an interesting choice for the championship finale. So I'm kind of looking forward to it being back at Homestead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Homestead will give guys a lot more options of where they can run and put their car. You can pretty much run
Hmm.
all the way on the bottom, up at the wall, a little bit in the middle. Phoenix, it's a short track package. There's really only one real good way to run that track, and it's hard to pass. So, looking forward to Homestead for sure next year. Hopefully, the one thing I will say is they've talked about overhauling the facility. I hope that doesn't mean they're going to repave it, because golly, that track is so great right now. Do not repave it. I hope they can push back any repaving when it comes to Homestead has really gotten good the last few years. Now Vegas, I've noticed the last year or two, Vegas is really nice and worn in now, since they did the reconfig back, and I think it was '07 or '06. They haven't touched the pavement on that track since. Kansas now since 2012, 2013 hasn't been touched, so that's starting to age really nicely. And then there's another track that I'm forgetting offhand. I believe that is a speedway that has really come into its own. But as far as short tracks go, like Richmond has been fantastic. People always give shit to Richmond, but Richmond has like also some of the oldest pavement on the schedule. So you think short track racing sucks now. Just wait until they repave Richmond, because then it'll suck for like 10 years. But in terms of other motorsports, we still have Formula One going on currently. I haven't been as invested in that this year, since Red Bull has kind of lost their luster, and it's been more of the McLaren game this year. Looking at the point standings, though, I have been following, at least looking at race results the last month or two after races are over, and it went from being what looked like a Piastri championship year and him kind of like usurping Lando as McLaren's number one, to now it has swung back in Lando's favor, and now Lando leads points by 24 points with, I believe, 3 races to go. I think they have I think it's Vegas something, and Abu Dhabi are left, I believe. I'm gonna take a check on that. But Norris and Piastri now with both 7 wins apiece, and then Max is third in the points with 5. Okay, Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. I didn't want to say it was Qatar without knowing for sure, but we've got no racing this weekend for Formula One, but then they have 3 weeks of racing in a row if you're on Eastern time. Vegas actually starts at a reasonable bloody hour this year. It's not starting at 2 a.m. It's starting at 11 p.m., which is, still late for us on the East Coast, but at least as far as the local people go, like that's like right at 8, 9 o'clock for them. And then Qatar is at 11 a.m. Eastern, and Abu Dhabi is at 8 a.m. Eastern. So depending on how Vegas and Qatar goes, you could see Lando lock it up early for his first World Drivers' Championship. I think Constructors has been locked up for a while now. Caleb, you follow Formula One at all?
Yeah, I do kind of touch on Formula One a little bit. I kind of got into it around 2020 when
Oh,
the
same time
whole
as me, pretty
pandemic
much.
thing happened. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I kind of follow it on and off. Sometimes it has some good races. Sometimes it is kind of a snoozer, but usually has some pretty interesting moments. And I mean, it's been kind of hard watching these past couple of weeks because I've been really rooting for Oscar to try and get this championship, but looks like he's unfortunately kind of fallen off his form these past couple of weeks. But I mean, he can maybe still do it if he locks in these next couple of weeks. But if Lando stays locked in, then definitely might be a bit tough there. But I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But definitely have to give props to Verstappen though, despite Norris locking in and kind of looking like he might not get it. He definitely put some pressure on in those past couple of weeks. So he's done a great job so far this season.
This might be like one of my lukewarm takes, as the guys at Fuel might say. But when I don't like it when they compare the executives at NASCAR like to compare NASCAR to football all the time. And it's like, well, it's not football. It's not a stick and ball sport. And they were in denial like during the summer, but now they finally come out and said like, yeah, our fans made it very clear like we are not a stick and ball sport, and we get that now. But when I do compare, like I can compare the excitement level. So like if I'm watching NASCAR, it's comparable to like football or hockey. If I'm watching Formula One, it's like if I put golf on or baseball, which baseball's gotten better since they brought in the pitch clock a few years ago. Um, but like Formula One is the golf of motorsports. I hate to say it. Like it's just kind of good to put on, and there's always someone commentary wise talking, and you don't really have to like see what's going on to know what's going on. Like you can kind of just put it on your TV and then do something else. Like it's comparable to golf. Like, have you ever watched the golf, Caleb?
Mm.
Okay.
Usually when I do, it's just it's just whatever was on.
Next time golf is on next year when their season starts again, I want you to just sit down one random day and just watch golf for 2 hours. And then if there's a Formula One race that weekend, great. Try to watch the Formula One race the next day and then tell me if it feels the same or not. Because at times it feels like I'm watching golf. Like it's just golf commentators, they talk all nice and soft, like an ASMR video. He's teeing up on the drive. Oh, he hit a bird. Oh no. Like kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot more softer versus the F1 guys are practically yelling at you for 2 hours, which I hope they prepare their vocal cords for every race because good Lord, they make like I'll give them a ton of credit because those guys make even the most boring racing to me, they make it sound exciting and like that's like just great to listen to because like I'm like on the edge of my seat for the commentary, but like when I'm looking at the picture on my screen, I'm just like, guy's got a 10-second lead and third's another 10 seconds back, and then that guy's 5 seconds back, and none of them are in DRS, so like what's even the point now? It's just a parade lap every lap, but the commentators make it sound fun.
Probably go insane on something like MRN.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we'll get out of real racing because real racing's pretty much over. We'll get to some sim racing. We'll start with the past week for ourselves. If you have anything. Personally, I didn't have really anything go on. I already talked about my previous week on Sunday night with the episode for episode 26 with Emmanuel Hartnett. Check that one out if you haven't yet. Really good episode. There was some sad news in that episode though that I did not know about. So that really, that sucked. But hope Emmanuel's hanging in there. Love you, buddy. But so talked about my racing last week on Sunday night, which came out Monday. This week, really, the only thing that happened for me is we had the Hobo finale on Tuesday at Phoenix. That was Andrew Miller and I that broadcasted on Andrew's channel, Top Dragster. Of course, go give a sub to Top Dragster if you haven't already. He's been putting out a ton of broadcasts lately between CCR, Prime Time, and then I forget the name of it, but it's Brian Wolf's thing is on Sunday, so it's been going on. He's been putting out a ton of work and content. So go give Top Dragster a sub. And if you're looking for a broadcaster, hook him up. If Andrew's busy, come talk to me because I'm starting out a venture myself, Bulldog Speed TV. Everybody loves BS TV. Ha ha ha. Yes, I know what I did there. But yeah, like if you're looking for something, I got deals that I'm willing to offer, something a little different that I've never really seen anybody advertise that like, oh, if you do multiple races, we'll give you this amount off or this amount off. And like, I'm willing to negotiate because at the end of the day, it's a 22-year-old going on 23-year-old game. And I get like the servers cost money and stuff too. So like, I'm willing to negotiate. I might have a certain price up there on my sheet, but I'm willing to negotiate a little bit. But so Tuesday was Hobo at Phoenix. Keith McLean did end up coming away with the championship after Herman Reese unfortunately blew up. Herman was going to need something to happen to Keith. It was the last Hobo race under the Rubino leadership. They started it way back. I saw someone say it was 2001 with NASCAR Racing 4. I'm not sure on that. I didn't get confirmation from Steve Rubino on that or not. But they have been running an NR league since basically the game came out. and it was the last race under their leadership. The Steve and Dan might still show up here and there next year, but Keith McLean and the team Speedland guys of Steve Brandt and Co. They're going to keep running the league as the Hobo Cup Series. Under, I think it's called AOR is the banner or something. So the league will continue as a series next year under a new banner. And looking forward, it'll probably be all the same guys probably still racing there. So I'm sure they're going to have a ton of fun. And then Keith wrecked himself on the last lap trying to go for the win and caused a huge wreck, which was hilarious to witness. It's a shame Andrew's laptop has been acting up lately. The end of the stream was just buffering every 2 seconds, which was a shame. Sounds like maybe like Trey, he might need new hardware, but a lot of these guys it's just for fun and it's hard to get the money to get the new hardware. So, but hopefully whatever issue is happening on his computer, he can get figured out. And then Wednesday night was the Fuel Awards show, which was just a huge party in Discord VC in the Fuel server, going through all the awards, had some good laughs, some good funny moments on the year. And yeah, I mean, that's all I've had. I'm in off-season mode. The wheel and pedals are in the closet. Put them away Tuesday night. So now I have like all my leg spaces back under my desk because I used to always move my feet around based on my pedals. And then my desk space has opened up a bit. I don't have a shifter sitting on the far right when I'm not using it, and I don't have the wheel sitting on the left in front of one side of my monitor when I'm not using it. So I've got all my desk space back so I can move my keyboard around and stuff a little more. I think I'm probably going to set my Wii up again. I set my Wii up 2 years ago and was playing MVP Baseball 2005 because I have the Wii that takes the GameCube games. I was playing the heck out of that 2 years ago in the winter. I think I'm going to set that back up again maybe come December 1st or so, just so I can like have a little bit of free desk space. But winter is usually when I play non-sim racing stuff that I don't generally play during sim racing season. So I think I'm going to start playing some of that stuff soon, because then once January 1st comes around, my plan is to start working on the next draft of my next book. So I'll be spending a ton of time on that every night. So then I won't be playing games at all, really. And then once February 1st comes around, I'll be bringing the wheel back out to D-Rust. But enough about me. Caleb, anything happening for you the last week in sim racing world?
Honestly, around this time of year, it's been pretty quiet for me, at least on the online side of sim racing. Of course, trying to focus a little bit on school, of course, and I mean, sometimes the opportunities arise, sometimes not so much, but I try to attend if I can, but I usually right now I'm just trying to focus on school at around this time, but still do try to especially call races. Of course, I've been calling races with Trey and Andrew quite a bit these last couple of months, and it's been a lot of fun over there, but of course, recently where the Grand National Series ended, we had that Fuel Awards ceremony, which was definitely a lot of fun to check out, and hopefully maybe looking to maybe try to run the Super Speedway series once that goes down. We'll have to see how it goes, but I've been pretty quiet on the online side of things, but on the offline side of things, of course, things are in pretty full force. We got the Turkey Hill Truck Series going on right now. Actually, have at the time of we're recording this a race going on right now from the Iowa Speedway. So that was definitely quite the interesting one, and excited to see how the next race at Atlanta goes as well. But I mean, yeah, sometimes it's kind of just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but at least on the offline side of things, do stay active quite a bit. And online, kind of in and out, but I have a lot of fun with it, and I definitely don't want to completely leave the scene anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about pacing yourself at the end of the day. A lot of guys, you get
Hmm.
sucked in and you just love it so much. You try to run like anywhere you can every night. And then you just suddenly hit this wall and
Hmm.
you're like, now I don't want to do it at all anymore. And if you hit that wall in like the middle of a season in multiple series, it's exhausting to just like once you're on track and you're running, it's good, but like before and after a race, I would get like feelings of just like, man, I feel like this feels more like an obligation than something I want to do, but I started it, so I want to finish it because I don't like leaving things unfinished. Like, I won't leave a league if the season is underway unless
Mhm.
I have a really good reason to leave a league mid-season. That did happen to me once 2 years ago in spring of 2023. I won't say the name of the league because they don't need any more attention than they already get. But all I'll say is uh, all of the tracks that required some skill were replaced by tracks that didn't require skill, and I had basically a free championship in hand, but I was being perceived as the bad guy by adminship, and I was like, you know what? You're right. If I don't like it, I can leave. So I left. I didn't need that empty championship. So, yeah, but I haven't had to do that since, and I think that was like the only time I've ever done it in 10 years in the online community. So, um, but yeah, like a lot of people I've seen hit burnout and they just stop and then they come back before they should come back. Then they get burned out again and they leave again for a little bit and then they come back. I've personally done 2 6-month breaks away from this game. I think one of them was actually 7. This was a few years ago. One of them was, I think it was like December of 2019 to like June of 2020. I didn't touch anything, and then I came back actually like the first week of June, and then raced from June to November. Didn't feel like touching it again, so then I didn't touch a league again from, I think it was November of 2020 until um, June of 21. And then I've been pretty much full time, other than like a winter break here and there. 2023 ended up only being like a 6-week break because at the time Bomb Squad started their new 2024 season in January that year. And then last year I was trying to get 100 wins, so I was racing a little bit over the winter into December, but then I took from, I think I got win 100 like the first or second week in December, and then I took from that week through to when Fast started in February off. So that ended up being a full 8 weeks. So this winter, it's going to be a little bit longer again. So now it's looking to be more like, I think it's like 10, 11 weeks I'll be taking off until Bomb Squad Cup starts up in February. So I did notice, though, that when I took 6 months off, Caleb, it took me like a week or so to get the rust off. That's why I'm going to do a
Mhm.
little prep when February comes around. I'm going to do like a week or two, just not like every night, but just like twice a week for the first few weeks, just like different tracks, probably a short, like one of each track type or something, like twice a week, like just an hour on it or something, just to like de-rust a little bit. There are small muscle memory things that you tend to forget how to do, and you just have to like remember, like, okay, this is how I need to do this. The big thing that I usually lose when I take breaks is my trail braking ability wanes a little bit, so I have to like remaster my trail braking balance, which is mostly a road course thing, but can apply to certain tracks like Phoenix or so. Um, but when I did take the 6 7 month breaks off years ago, I felt like I had a ton of rust. This past winter, when I took the 8 weeks off, it didn't feel like I had any rust. Like I got all my stuff back out, jumped back in, and I was hauling ass again. Like it, nothing nothing really did anything to me. So I'm curious if I'll feel the same way. After another, I guess technically it's only, let's see, it's like 3 weeks this month, then 4, then yeah, it's like 11 to February 1st. So I mean, I'm not really worried. I'll be the first to say, like, I know I've kind of gotten as good as I can get, and I don't need to get any better. And I know very well that when you are the guy who wins all the time, everyone wants to beat you. and they would love to beat you, but they eventually will get to a point where if they feel like they can't beat you, they give up. And then you start to see people leave leagues because you're just too hard to beat. And I don't want to be that guy either. Um, that's why I've said I don't know if I'll race fuel again full time, if much at all, because I mean I'm a 5-time champion in the Open Setup Series. Every season I've run full time, I won the title. Season 1 was kind of Mickey Mouse because Tyler Mallon couldn't be there for the finale, and we chose not to. He was going somewhere and found out, I think like 2 weeks before the finale or so, that he wasn't going to make it. We discussed pushing it back for him to be there, but then we were like, well, that opens a can of worms, so that didn't end up happening. This was back when I was an admin at Fuel. So I kind of Mickey Moused my way into that one because both of my wins in that season were the last 2 races. One of those was a road course, but then the oval one after Tyler wasn't there. And then that occurrence, though, is what prompted Tyler Stallhood to bring in the full season format starting in season 2, because in season 0 and in season 1, we just took the top 4 guys and then we made it a Final Four playoff race. So you basically did 10 race regular season, top 4 in points, 1 race, highest finisher wins the title. But I think we also were counting points, which made it a headache to figure out, because in season 0, we ran the finale at Nashville, and it was basically me and Joshua Clements that were the fastest that night, and Josh had led a lap or 2, and I think led the most, but there was a different point system at that time to where I wasn't sure with 10 to go as Josh was catching up to me. I wasn't sure if finishing second was going to win me the championship still or not. So that was the one season where I was stressed out because I was like, man, if he gets me, I don't know if I'm going to win the championship. So I was glad that it went to the full season. And then obviously I capitalized in seasons 3, 4, and recently 7. So it's been a ton of fun, but like I said, I feel like a lot of those guys have more fun. Obviously, Apollo High, they've gotten really good. I saw it especially this past season when they were on the track. They didn't get to run too much, but the races they were there, I was like, wow, like Apollo can actually save tires now. Like they used to be able to do that plenty fine a year ago, but now they do it even better, and they're still on controller. So like massive props to Apollo for honing their craft, and Vincenzo has been up there just as much. We had a great battle like a year ago at Kansas. That was a ton of fun. And he is, doing just as good on keyboard. So I'll definitely be looking forward to watching any battles that those guys have moving forward without me on track. Because Sportsman, I didn't run at all. And Apollo had nothing but great things to say about all of the great battles that were going on in Sportsman.
Sportsman was definitely a very fun series to follow, and looking to maybe try and make a start or 2 in there, but unfortunately time constraints kind of came up and wasn't able to make a start. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been trying to kind of pace myself the last year or so, just kind of racing on and off races that I have time for and find quite fun. And I've really enjoyed it. It definitely makes it a lot more enjoyable. But I mean, yeah, I think a full season definitely would not be out of the equation if the opportunity arose up. But yeah, I kind of just like to, just I guess kind of have fun with it. Just race whenever I can, race whatever I like to, and I've definitely had quite a lot of fun with it.
Absolutely. Well, let's get more to you because I think I just rambled for 10 minutes. Um, so we'll get into you now. This is the heart of the podcast. It's all about your history with the sim, the game, NASCAR Racing 2003 season. So first, we'll start off with how and when did you get into NR 2003?
Honestly, I don't really know if I could exactly pinpoint when, but I definitely can tell you. Really started to kind of understand what NR 2003 was via YouTube. I watched a lot of NR 2003 Crash compilations, of course, along with Idiots of NASCAR and TNT Man 93. That was quite big there back in the day, and that definitely kind of got me aware of what NR 2003 was, and definitely got me longing for the game. And as the years went on, I saw more stuff regarding the game and just how much it could do. And eventually, I did end up getting my hands on it. I got it for, I think it was actually Christmas one year. I got it. I actually got a physical copy that actually came with a Jimmy Johnson diecast card, which was pretty nifty. But I finally got my hands on the game and started learning the ins and outs of it, and just had so much fun with it. Even before the time I knew how to install mods and everything. Eventually, did figure that out and just took it to an absolute whole nother level. And yeah, just ever since I got it back there, and probably it was probably around 2015, maybe 16 when I ended up getting the game, and I've just loved it and adored it ever since. It's pretty much been my favorite game pretty much to this day. And then, I mean, I kind of just had on and off fun with it for a couple of years, and then eventually I discovered the NR offline racing scene, probably around late 2018-19, and I discovered a lot of one-off events. I signed up for a couple of those, but didn't really come until 2020 when the pandemic struck and everything, and I kind of just found myself in a bit of a weird place where I was just kind of bored out of my mind, really. I needed something to do, and just also wasn't really in the best place either. I was kind of just isolated, needed someone to talk to, and ended up coming across Trey Wright's channel. Ended up coming across NASCAR Nerd 34 and ended up discovering the Mission Barbecue Cup Series signups. So I decided, hey, why not? I'll sign up for this. Maybe just something to get my mind off of whatever's going on, and it'd be fun to watch as well. And eventually, that ended up turning into a NR 2003 offline series, which was attached to the NOFSRL, National Offline Fantasy Sim Racing League, if I remember correctly. But ended up getting into all of that. Ran my first offline season there in the Mission Barbecue Cup Series, and I did awful. I was, I think, last in points of all the full time drivers. I wrecked so much, but still, I had an absolutely incredible time. And eventually, I did end up joining the server that the series was affiliated with and met so many cool people. And I never really knew it at the time, but that was a huge butterfly effect, and that would really change the trajectory of the rest of my life for the best. And this game has honestly done so much for me, and I really cannot thank it enough for that. But that's kind of really how I got into NR as a whole. Like I said, pretty much just through YouTube, NR content, crash compilations, stuff like that. Eventually got my hands on the game, had fun with it for a couple of years, ended up figuring out some stuff, and then eventually stumbled on the NR offline scene, and just from then, the rest was history.
Right on. It's cool hearing that like you got the game in an age where the internet stuff was readily accessible, but didn't really discover the offline stuff for a few years. I've said in past episodes, I got the game when it came out in 2003. I was like six years old. I would just mess around with it after school and stuff. Didn't know anything about mods or anything until like 2013. Because my mother did not let me go on the internet, which she was smart to do because the internet now, knowing, internet's a scary place. I'm surprised a lot of parents let their kids go on it at 12, 13 years old without some supervision. I wasn't really on it until 14, 15. But like, yeah, same way I was watching crash comps around like the time YouTube was becoming a big thing, like 2011, 2012. And, I just slowly started to find out that there were mods. I found out there were mods and tracks first before I found out what an offline league was. And then, I kind of just went from there. And then, of course, like 2 years after offline in 2015, when you got the game, is when I discovered online. So kind of interesting, everyone's got like kind of a similar path, but also very different in terms of getting into the community. I want to detour away really quick because I just realized I forgot kind of an important background question. And that is, how you got into motorsports and who your first favorite driver was. I always ask everybody this question, and I just completely forgot. So we're gonna backtrack a bit to that.
I really got into motorsports with help from my dad. He was a pretty big motorsports fan, especially there in the early 2000s, or late 2000s, early 2010s. Mainly following, I guess, in the footsteps of his father as well, which is honestly pretty cool to see. My dad's dad had a gigantic Dale Earnhardt memorabilia collection. My dad definitely has one too, and that has led to me having a giant collection as well. So I guess the generations just keep on coming. But yeah, my dad really helped introduce me to the world of NASCAR. Mainly, like I said, I already kind of discovered it on YouTube a little bit, but also, I guess, even before that, he would often go to races and he would bring back diecasts that I would play with. I remember it very, very vividly. I had four diecasts that I would always play with. It was a 2003 Food City 500 program car. There was Dale Earnhardt's silver Goodwrench car from 1998, I believe it was. And then there was Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson's 2010 DuPont and Lowe's cars, respectively. And I played with those things so much. And yeah, eventually, in that would lead to me starting to watch the races a little bit. I think 2012 was probably the first season where I really started watching. And also, I definitely have to give huge credit to the NASCAR video game scene, of course. Before in our 2003, I remember we got my dad NASCAR the game 2011 for the Wii, actually,
Yep, I
for
had
his
it for the Wii too.
birthday. Yeah. And I mean, he definitely played it, but I played the absolute crap out of that game. I absolutely adored that game. And honestly, I think that is what really kind of jumped me into the NASCAR scene. Playing NASCAR 2011, the game, on the Wii. And like I said, I just absolutely loved it. Ended up getting NASCAR the game Inside Line for the Wii as well, before I eventually ended up getting an Xbox 360 a couple years later. But yeah, I played those games especially like crazy, and then eventually in 2013, after getting into NASCAR, starting to watch the races, it eventually culminated into me finally going to my first ever race at the 2013 Food City 500 at Bristol, and my goodness, that was an absolutely wild race. I still remember pretty much how that race went. You had Tony Stewart there blowing a tire early on. You had Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth wrecking from the lead. And then it all ended up with Casey Kane coming home with the win ahead of Jimmy Johnson there. So from that and the diecast cards and stuff, my original favorite driver, and still to this day, is probably my all-time favorite driver, Jimmy Johnson. And these past couple of years have been a little bit tough, but hey, I still really love him. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, and yeah, it's nice to see him there get that third place finish at the Daytona 500 earlier this year. But also from the Food City 500, I also really became a fan of Casey Kane as well and liked him
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much until this day. I was really excited to see him back at the Rockingham Speedway. That was absolutely awesome. And I mean, I've had swirlings that he might even come back for some more races. I have to see if that ends up coming to fruition. I would definitely really like to see that. But yeah, Jimmy Johnson and Casey Kane, those were my guys there in the early years. And pretty much stayed that way for the next couple of years as I started to dive deeper into the world of NASCAR, started watching more races, started playing more games, played Inside Line, got 14, 15, all that jazz. And then late 2018, I started to kind of follow another driver, which in hindsight didn't really age the best, but around that time I also started to become a fan of Matt DiBenedetto,
Ah.
and he became another one of my favorite drivers up there until the early 2020s, where at that point I discovered a brand new driver that I kind of followed throughout the ranks, and was really excited to see him enter the Cup Series back in 2020. He absolutely tore up the Xfinity Series, and I mean, once he came up to Cup, he was pretty much set in stone as one of my favorite drivers, especially considering that Jimmy Johnson was retiring for full time competition. But Tyler Reddick became my favorite driver and currently still is my favorite active full time driver in the Cup Series to this day. I think he's got a really funny personality and he's very talented behind the wheel as well. Fortunately, it's been a bit of an off year this season. He still had some consistent runs, but fortunately wasn't able to find victory lane. But still love him all the same and excited to see what Reddick can potentially do next season. But yeah, Tyler Reddick, he's my guy that I root for in the Cup Series right now. I definitely have to give Definitely have to throw Todd Gillen and Michael McDowell out there as well. There's some more of my favorites, as well as of course Connor Zilic. He is a absolute rising phenom right now, and I'm definitely excited to see what he can do next year in the Cup Series. Like I said, arguably deserved this year's Xfinity Series title with just how much he tore up the Xfinity Series this season, even with all those injuries, which was absolutely insane. It honestly kind of just seemed like every time he put him down, he came back stronger, and that's honestly, I think, a really good trait that a driver can have. But I'm really excited to see what Zilch can do next season. He's going to be definitely a guy that I will be rooting for alongside Tyler Reddick. But I mean, yeah, it's honestly kind of crazy how this motorsports journey has come. All starting from a couple of simple diecast cars and a NASCAR game for the Wii has blossomed into a huge love that I have, not just for NASCAR, but for motorsports as a whole. You know, F1, IndyCar, all that jazz. And it's just been a really, really fun ride.
Yeah, it's crazy how our interests develop. Funny little
Hmm.
thing about Tyler Reddick. I was thinking about this today, watching the Denny podcast, which Denny said he's definitely probably coming back. Um, but I was thinking, if Denny were to retire, what would they do? You mentioned Corey Heim doesn't have an announced ride. I've heard rumors through Door Pumper Clear and stuff that he's going to run part time across the board or something weird. But I feel like this makes the most sense. I feel like if Denny were to retire, what they would probably do is they would take the 11 from Gibbs and run it under 2311 because I feel like that makes the most sense. Um, the 11 was with Denny the whole time he was at Gibbs. It was only ever a Gibbs number with Denny. I feel like that would be cool if they just transferred the number rights to Denny with his team, and you stick Corey Heim in the 11. Well, now you're probably asking yourself, well, what's Gibbs going to do about their fourth charter and 2311 can't run four? Well, you probably take Reddick, not Bubba, because I feel like Bubba's good for 2311 and he probably likes it there. I feel like you take Reddick and you send them to Gibbs. Now, whether that's them keeping the 45 number or not in a nod to Jordan, or maybe bringing back the 18, because that's what's crazy to me right now is we're in this era of Gibbs where Hendrick had this at one point. Gibbs doesn't have their first car number on the track. We saw it with Hendrick for a brief moment where Hendrick, after Kane, they did not have the 5 on the track
Hmm.
until Larson came in to drive it. I'm pretty sure Gibbs is probably waiting for the right driver to put in the 18 to bring it back. Um, I feel like Reddick would be a good driver for that. I don't really feel like when I think 18, well, Bubba Wallace doesn't really scream 18 to me. I think he fits perfectly into the 23 mold. And like I feel like you could bring the 18 back under Reddick if they did such a thing. And maybe they'll even do that for 27. Who knows? Then he was talking about succession plan. Realistically, they shouldn't have to do that. They should just be able to throw Corey Heim in the 11 at Gibbs. But Ty Gibbs exists, and he's a grudge holder apparently. So can't always have nice things, I guess. So, but that was like my random idea. I've been running a mock series this year since I quit doing offline, and I just like stat
Those
track
are
and stuff. And I have like a
those
sheet that
are so much fun.
Oh yeah, there's a sheet out there that like has all the motorsport rumors from back in the day, and I've been pulling a lot of different
Ooh.
stuff from that. And then there are drivers that haven't had career-ending crashes or fatalities, or didn't have this happen off track. Which now that I'm in the mid '90s, has everything like completely shaken up into like a full alternate universe. Like the chair was moved 20 years ago in the 70s, and now like the butterfly effect is in full swing, and it's like I can borderline do whatever I want at this point. But I did just have to kill 2 drivers off, because I haven't really killed anybody off because I mostly simulate the races. But when I do see something, if it's like injury worthy or something, like I will do something about it. But I did just have to have my first cup injuries in the Southern 500 1994. We had one driver pass away from the accident, and the other one had career-ending injuries. So I stuck it out as long as I could, but I didn't have the restrictor plate on the cars at Daytona after 87. I did put them on at Dega around 89, but starting in 95, restrictor plate racing is now going to be a thing in the Daytona 500, which is definitely going to take away a little bit of prestige from it, because when you have the AI race under chassis 5, it really pulls from both the car ratings and the driver rating for super speedway, because they might be doing like 220 230 into the corner, but they all have to lift down to like 185 to 190. So it was like they were just driving a really souped up like cookie cutter, with no downforce. So it was still like very deserving winners. So now it'll be a little more like random, you could say. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've been having a ton of fun with the mock, but it's been making my brain storm about all the different things that you could see happen in real life. But most of them never pan out because they are a little far fetched.
In our 2003 mocks are always usually fun to do, and I think really kind of played a testament to just how much you can do with the game. You could pretty much create your own universes. We often see that, of course, within our offline racing, where you can pretty much just put anyone you want to into the field and just let it rip pretty much. But yeah, the versatility of the game is really what has made it pretty much so popular, even to this day, and even with NASCAR 25 out, which I gotta say has definitely looked really, really solid, especially for a NASCAR console release. But so I think NR's versatility is really going to continue to make it popular even into the future. But yeah, mocks especially and stuff like that are always usually a lot of fun because you can pretty much make a lot of creative decisions and stuff. Of course, I've been kind of doing one this past little bit in 2003, resimming that, and I'm going to try to kind of just take it into the future, see what it holds. But it's definitely been interesting so far. But just yeah, stuff like that, which is how much you can do with the game, always usually makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we'll get back into NR on your side now that we've taken our little detour and we've come back to the main road. So you talked your offline background. When did you experiment with online, and do you remember your first online race? Because I know you've told me you've done a few here and there.
Yeah, so I really started to dive into online kind of just because I had heard about it from a couple of people, and I just thought, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? It was late 22, early 23 is when I made my first start. It was in the Score Racing League, then called at the point called Dior. It was
Oh
run by Dan
yes,
Wilkins, and
I've heard a lot of
that's where I met.
infamous stories from Score and Dior, for the record. But
Yep.
carry on.
But yeah, that's where I made my first start. I think it was probably late 2022 when I made my first start. Drove the number 59, and I just pretty much had a blank black car. Had serpentine numbers. I had a advertise here kind of thing on the front of the car, kind of thing based off of the car that Brandon Brown ran. But yeah, I made my first start, and in hindsight, this probably wasn't the best choice. But I made my first ever start at Watkins Glen.
Ooh.
And that probably went about as well as you would expect. I tried to get accustomed to whatever I could during practice. Of course, I practiced a lot at different tracks leading up to the race, but still didn't really hold a torch to what would end up coming. Just the feeling of actually racing online and racing around other actual people. But yeah, I definitely wasn't prepared for it. And lap one of the race, I ended up eating wall in the bus stop and retiring from the race. So definitely not the best start to an online career. But I ended up kind of catching my bearings in the next couple of races. But yeah, that Watkins Glen race was my first ever start, and I definitely didn't go the way I expected. But I kept on with it and ended up, finding my stride in the next couple of weeks and having a ton of fun with it.
I think I might be mistaken because it's been 8 months, but I feel like Andrew told me his first online race was at Watkins Glen or a road course or something. Or it might have been his second, or at least his first win. But I feel like he mentioned Watkins Glen in some capacity of his early and our online experience. I know you've said already that you don't particularly get to run full time too much in a lot of places, but have you at least gotten a win?
Yes, I have. I've managed to get a couple.
Okay, let's talk about the first win. What was your first win like?
So this is a story. Okay.
Oh boy.
So that very same season, of course, like I said, I made my first start at Watkins Glen. That was kind of towards the beginning of the season. Like I said, as the season went along, I kind of caught my bearings and started to really kind of hit my stride of what I was looking for, and that all culminated into season three, Dior Chicagoland, and I think that was in February of 2023. And of course, like I practiced and actually liked the track quite a lot, and I mean, I was expecting to maybe do decent, but honestly, I did maybe a little bit better than I expected. I ran towards the front a lot of time there that night. I did get into an accident there in the middle stages of the race, but still managed to claw my way back up towards the front and kind of just stayed consistently up there around the top five ish, pretty much about the whole night. But final restart and everything is where it all kind of started to kick into high gear. Of course, started around that same area, and we had a kind of a long run there for the final restart, but it came down up towards the front between a real good friend of mine, actually, Thomas Troxel, and Carnby Edwards for the race win. And I was sitting back there in third. I wasn't really catching the top two, so I was honestly just contently happy there, sitting in the third position. But we get to the final lap, and Troxel starts to get held up a little bit by a lap car, which, funnily enough, was Carnby Edwards' teammate. But kind of forces Troxel to take a bit of an awkward line turn one. Troxel gets into the wall. Carnby Edwards passes him. And I'm just in third place. I'm not sure what's going on up there, but all I see out of my windshield is Troxel full send it into turn three and take out both Carnby Edwards and I believe it was Taylor Stallworthy,
Wow.
and ended up slipping up the track himself and getting into the wall. And I'm just back here thinking, holy crap, I have to miss this first and foremost. So I managed to slide down to the bottom, just barely cleared. I don't remember who it was, but somebody as they were sliding down the track, and ended up passing both of them and ended up going to the line first to secure my first win. I was genuinely like floored. I did not know what to think about that moment. Eventually, as I started to slow down and was on the backstretch, it started to kick in because I was like starting to freak out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that was definitely a very interesting night. There was a lot of stuff said in the server that night, but I was just chilling. I got myself some cookie dough ice cream to celebrate, but that was a very interesting night down there in Chicagoland.
I'll tell you what. I got a similar story. This was in my early days of NR. So 20 winter 2015. I joined. I think like today or tomorrow is actually my 10-year anniversary. It was around this time in November that I made my first start. But there were two instances where I was in second and I wrecked a guy on the last lap going for the win. Not intentionally, like what it sounds like Thomas did. But I was going for the win and I wrecked the guy. And we both went up the track and wrecked in the third. And it allowed fourth place to win. And it happened to be the same driver on both occasions within the span of a month. Which, like, I've never seen anything like that happen again where same driver going for the win, wrecks another driver, him and the whole top three wreck out, and fourth place, same guy both times, wins the race. The first one was at Pig Stadium. My steering assistance, actually, hang on, OBS I think is crashing. Oh, no, we're good. OBS is still running. My programs have been acting weird lately. We're good. OBS is still running. But so Pig Stadium, I went in second. And now the leader, he did block a good bit. I think it was Shane Sides. And Shane blocked me a little bit as low as he wanted to. I was kind of there. He gave me a lane. It wasn't a good lane considering how that track drove even in truck physics. But my steering assistance, I wasn't really used to how steering assistance would get pulled by LP lines, and I was on controller, and it kind of like pulled me back up to the right into the corner. So I ended up wrecking him, and we both went up the track. Third place thought they were going to make it by on the outside, but they got caught up, and Charles Sanford, he was more heavily in the offline at the time than he was really online, but he was able to sneak by from fourth and win. Then a month later on his birthday, we were racing Eldora, and I was fast as hell. And this was in the main series, so it was NNSCRA banner online series icebreakers. The first one was the support league, which at the time was called Domino's Dash, which ran like it was like a shorter right before the main event race for like less experienced drivers and stuff. But in the main event, I felt really good at Eldora for some reason. Like I was fast, I was leading laps. 10 years later, I know why. When you're on controller and you have a low degree of rotation, you do good on dirt naturally because like dirt is all hitting the throttle off and like not having a lot of rotation to really worry about. And you'll usually see like keyboarders and controllers have easier success than like a wheel guy on dirt on an R anyway. But you can figure it out. Like I've figured it out on wheel, but anyway, that's not the point. But so we're running Eldora. Zach Buchanan and Eric Rodriguez were battling for the lead at the end. I had been relegated to third at the time, but I got on the last lap, I got a pretty good run, in my opinion, off of turn two. I definitely, in hindsight, was not close enough to make a move, but I sent it into turn three, clipped the apron transition that is there on that version of the track. They were already side by side. That got me up into them. They wrecked. I went up straight into the outside wall. And Charles Sanford, who was minding his business in fourth, came through on the bottom and won the race.
Oh.
So, but I had a meme video made of me for the Eldora one. Kind of funny in hindsight. I'd like to go back to it at some point and just go, wow, look at that idiot send it off in the turn three. What was he thinking?
Oh, goodness.
But so why 59?
You know, that's honestly kind of a good question. I think it honestly just kind of came around with, I think one of my favorite numbers is probably 95 because, like I said, I kind of, through the years, grown to like Michael McDowell, and 95 kind of just really stuck out to me. Probably because of Lightning McQueen as well, which is honestly another thing that I kind of forgot to mention that kind of got me into the sport of NASCAR after seeing cars and everything. But, I mean, I honestly really liked the number 95, but, I mean, honestly, kind of just seemed like a lot of other people too because it was used quite often. But honestly, I kind of just decided, you know, what if I flip the numbers? 59 honestly looks kind of cool. So that's what I use for my first starts, and honestly, since then, it's kind of stuck. It's become a staple, I think, of just the type of cars that I drive, and also just the Appalachian Motorsports team as well, which, of course, the team itself uses pretty much the Levine Family Racing font, the 95 and the 59, as well as a couple other custom numbers made from the same font, which I'm pretty sure is just Impact italicized, but, yeah, it's pretty much how 59 came to be. It was kind of just flipping some stuff around because I thought it might be pretty cool, and that's pretty much just stuck ever since.
All right, yeah, interesting. I was wondering actually after I asked the question, I was like, that's almost kind of like both of Casey's main numbers. He had success in the 9 and the 5.
Yeah,
You know,
there you go.
it's kind of funny when you look at Casey's Cup career. Technically, he only ever ran races in 3 numerical digits, if I'm not mistaken. 9, 4, 5, 95. I think that's right. He didn't run any other races, did he? In Cup? I don't think he did.
I don't think so.
I think that was it. Yeah, so Cup-wise, kind of funny. Only ever touched 3 digits. Okay, so here's a question I forgot to ask, but so these online races, these early ones, were you using controller or?
I've been a controller board since pretty much the beginning.
Okay,
Used a
controller.
controller for those first starts and still do.
All right, gotcha. Do you use any steering assistance or do you use the input momentum?
Nope.
Don't know.
I've I know I've messed with like momentum and stuff a little bit for the controller, but as far as steering assist goes, I think I've pretty much got that turned completely off. I think the only thing I really do use is anti-lock brakes because it's definitely kind of hard to manage with controllers. I keep that on as well as automatic clutch as well.
Okay. Do you know what your linearity is set to? Because that is still a thing on controller because of the joystick typically.
I actually don't know. Last time I checked, I'll have to go check again.
Okay. Yeah, generally I've noticed, and in hindsight, I wish I had set mine lower. But controller, your best bet is to set the linearity to 0. um,
I,
and
I
th-
think that is what it said as. Yeah.
and then you don't really have to do anything else. I always had mine at 30, which even with some steering assistance, always made me twitchy as hell. And I did not understand what linearity really was until I got a wheel. And by that point, I was like, wheel or nothing. Um, so it's kind of funny that, like in hindsight, like if I could go back and do it again, which I wouldn't, because I'm at peak. Like, why would I want to go back and do it again? Um, but if I could go back, I'd be like, oh yeah, like I need to set this to 0 because that's why I'm twitchy as hell. Like 30% is no bueno, even on this little joystick. Have you ever fought with anybody? Have you ever butted heads on the online side?
To this point, I don't really think so.
Has anyone ever gotten mad at you?
There probably maybe a couple times, but usually it wasn't much of a grudge just past that week.
Okay. Um, any instances of it was something really embarrassing, like a bad mistake you made that had a person mad at you?
Not necessarily had a person mad at me, but a very embarrassing moment, I would say. I remember once again
Let's hear it.
it was Dior Watkins Glen, not the original race, but a later one, and I was fighting for position with Cole Rodriguez.
Okay.
And it was getting into the closing laps. I was starting to get maybe a little bit desperate and ended up sending it, I think it was into the second to final corner way too hard. Just was not going to make the corner, whatever happened. And fortunately, the only way I pretty much had to make the corner was pretty much just completely launch Cole out of my way.
Wow.
That's unfortunately what really ended up happening. And after the race, I went and pretty much profusely apologized to Cole. And luckily, he was cool about it. And I didn't really get much further, but that was definitely incredibly embarrassing on my part. And going forward, I definitely learned to try and be a little bit more mindful, especially getting into the later stages of the race when the aggression really starts to ramp up. But as far as embarrassing moments go, it's probably the biggest one that comes to mind. There's definitely been quite a couple of other oops season spills as well. There was another series that I didn't have the best showing at. It was, I think, BPNR, Bass Pro NR League Kentucky, where I tried, I think, staying out on a late race restart, and that ended up
Uh oh.
resulting in me putting a. I held on for a couple laps, but I was definitely struggling out there up at the front, and eventually some desperation once again started to seep in. That resulted in me putting an absolutely atrocious block on Jonathan Salos and pretty much putting him into the wall and starting off a pileup. And unfortunately, it didn't get much better from there because I stayed out once again, thinking that it was probably fine, and I ended up falling back and eventually losing the car in the middle of the pack and taking out a bunch of cars, including my teammates. So that was also definitely not the brightest moment there as well.
That is all one big oof, to say the least.
Yeah, I definitely had a bit of a chew out after that race and definitely had my name pop up a few times at the penalty report.
Yeah, sometimes, you just have a bad night. There was a race
Hmm.
2 years ago. This was season one Fuel Grand National Series. At the time, we called it the Rogue Energy Cup Series because we were running Winston Cup 98 mod for that season. The Grand National change came about in season two. But so we were at Watkins Glen. I was super hyped for the race because we were using Watkins Glen 2011, and I had made an I edit to where the track actually had tire fall off. Because of the fault track, the tire wear loss is set to like 0.17. So you would only get like a second of fall off. Well, I cranked that sucker up to like 0.25 or more, I think it was. We were getting like 3 seconds of fall off, and with the adjusted wear, we were almost blowing tires in a full fuel run. Brandon Hawken was in that race. Redacted was in that race. You might know who I mean by Redacted. I'm not talking about Tyler Mallon. I'm talking about the other person. Um,
Hmm.
I was in that race. Joshua Moyers was there, and even Joven was there. I choked early in the bus stop for like no reason. Spun out, got behind, kind of dive bombed somebody into turn one. And then I was racing Malin really hard up the S's, and we just came together and wrecked. And I think that was actually like that might have been. I think I wrecked them twice in that race. I don't remember. But it was just a really bad night. Didn't even get a top three for a race I was so pumped about because I knew I was gonna have a good shot, and I just completely fumbled, and I just had a terrible night. Um, don't typically have those nights anymore just because of repetition and stuff, but on a rare occasion, it'll just not be your night, even with all the experience. And I'll have that, like, I think maybe once a year. I don't remember what that race might have been this year, but I think there was definitely one race somewhere where I had two incidents in one night. And then there was a bad luck stretch where there was like 2 weeks in a row I blew a gear, and I was really upset because I was like, man, this shit is only supposed to happen once every 6 months, and it happened twice in 2 weeks. This is some bullshit. And then the rest of the year, I didn't strip another gear. So,
Those are the
NR
worst.
is weird with the gear stripping because it's just random typically.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I always bite you at the butt at the least opportune times. I still remember there was one race at Pikes Peak in Dyer where Thomas Troxel somehow miraculously lost fourth gear, and he definitely made it known on the radio. That was honestly quite the funny moment. But yeah, gear failures are always the worst. And I guess going back to school as well, I remember Lime Rock in actually one of the more recent seasons. I made it one corner before my gearbox blew. Yay!
I'd say one of the dumbest gear failures I've had was there was a race one night, and I don't remember if we restarted or not. I don't know if we did. But there was a race one night. It was a Bristol week at Bomb Squad. This was a few years ago. And got on track. We were running one race and everything was fine. I went to pit under a caution, and when I downshifted the first, it just broke. So then I had no first gear the rest of the night, which in hindsight now, like, don't really need it. First gear on Bristol game track is generally pretty slick. Only really good for getting off pit road. The next night, we gridded up, got on track. The second I shifted the first, it was broken. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how do you break a gear after you start the car? I think we restarted the race for that. I do not remember. I was not happy though. Um, then,
Goodness.
and I talked about this, I think, on previous episode with Emmanuel at Texas and Fast this year. It was a very fuel saving race with where, like the first yellow fell. With where the first yellow fell, it was still like it was a potential 3-stop race, but if you saved fuel for the rest of the night, you could do it on 2. So that's what I was doing. I hit the clutch going into turn 1, and when I removed my hand from the clutch, fourth gear was just gone, and I was not happy.
Oh.
Funnily enough, now that was in cup physics, so it's a little different, but in a truck race at Bomb Squad, I'd say about 5 years ago, I think it was either 2020 or 21. I was riding under caution in fourth gear. Now, this is a main reason why I never do this anymore. I was riding under caution in fourth gear, not even clutching. Went into turn one, riding in fourth gear, and it just broke. It just broke. And I was just in the gear, not clutching, nothing. It just broke going into turn one in trucks at Texas under yellow. And I was like, what the hell? So to this day, and you can see it too on a lot of my recent POV streams, anytime we're under caution, I'm riding in third. Because realistically, the 1,000 RPMs isn't going to save me another lap of gas. So I just ride in third now.
Oh, goodness.
So you mentioned you have a few wins to your name. Do you think your first win is still the biggest win, or do you feel like there's another win that's bigger, or maybe not so much that there's a big win, but there's a win that means a lot to you?
Yeah, the first win was definitely one that meant a lot to me, and there was another one as well that definitely holds a pretty strong place in my mind. It was a super speedway series, and I mean, it definitely had quite a big talent pool in it, so I was definitely kind of nervous going in. But in my very first race in the series, it was, I don't remember the exact name of the track, but it was basically, if I had to put it into words, it was Pocono on crack. It was pretty much, I guess, just Pocono, but
Bermuda?
huge. Yes, it was probably Bermuda, yeah. But yeah, my first start in the series, and I mean, I feel like I did pretty good all night, but managed to kind of hang out towards the back a little bit there in the late stages and claw my way back towards the front of the field and kind of set myself up in a pretty good position going into the white flag. And honestly, just in a way, kind of shades of my first win as well. The top two kind of got together off of the final corner. The second place car tried to go for a move. First place car threw a bit of a late block and ended up spinning off the nose and kind of stalled the momentum out there. So I ended up getting a push out to the race lead and pretty much a long straightaway between me and the finish line. So at that point, it was just, all right, blocking. So I tried to block with all my might. I did make one, a little bit questionable one, towards the bottom of the racetrack, but still managed to hang on and secure the win on debut in that series. And that was just absolutely incredible. I did not believe that going in, I would win that race there that night, but managed to get it done. And that one definitely holds a pretty prominent place in my mind as well.
All right, awesome. Here's a great question that I like to ask everybody. It's a 4-part question. If you need me to repeat any parts, just let me know. It's favorite mod, favorite track, a favorite league to race at, or for maybe in your case, offline league as well, can count. And your favorite physics type, whether to watch or to drive.
Okay, so favorite mod, I would probably have to give it to DMR Cup 12. That
All
is a
right.
mod that just holds so many great memories for me. Like I said, that was a time where I really started to kind of get into the sport of NASCAR. So that mod holds great memories for me, and I think it really does that era of NASCAR justice as well. The car just looks so good. The mod itself just looks absolutely stunning, and that's honestly why I use it to this day for the big offline event that I hold every Christmas, the Christmas Eve Showdown. So, yeah, DMR Cup 12 holds a big spot in my heart, and for that, I have to give that to my favorite NR 2003 mod. So, I believe the next one was track, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember correctly.
Yep.
Okay, favorite NR 2003 track. I think there's definitely a lot of contenders for that. I think New Smyrna Modified is very good for offline racing. It's usually always a lot of fun. But
Okay.
if I had to go for online, I would honestly probably say Watkins Glen 2017.
Okay.
It's always usually a very fun track to drive, especially for Watkins Glen. It's really fluid and it's just always usually a lot of fun. And for offline, honestly, without a doubt, I have to give it to Michigan 2017. We've made quite a few I&I adjustments to that track, but my goodness, it absolutely produces some spectacular races. We just had one earlier this couple months ago, I guess, at this point for the Turkey Hill Truck Series. That was absolutely just insanity. And it always usually produces some very fun racing. So, If I definitely had to go for some favorites online, it would probably be Watkins Glen, and for offline racing, I definitely have to give it there to Michigan. But yeah, like I said, definitely have to also give credit to New Smyrna Modified. That one also usually hosts some very fun offline racing as well. And also, let's see, Atlanta's usually pretty good, especially if you can get some eye adjustments to up the tire wear at that racetrack. It's usually a lot of fun. Uh, and also Willow Springs Raceway. I have a lot of good memories offline with Willow Springs Raceway. Honestly, about probably 21, 22 in the offline scene, I kind of dominated that racetrack there for a little bit. And still, honestly, I think it really does well for offline road course races, which is definitely kind of rare to come across. There's a couple of tracks, only really a couple of tracks I'd say produce some really fun racing for road course racing. Willow Springs, Watkins Glen, definitely some that come to mind there. But yeah, those are some really fun racetracks for offline as well.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
Favorite league, offline and online.
I guess favorite league for offline, I got to give it to folks over at AG. I still cannot believe that I'm over there doing races for them. And of course, didn't really get to go into it when I was talking about getting into NR 2003, but it was such a surreal experience, getting into college and having the opportunity to start working alongside one of arguably, I guess, the biggest creators in the NR 2003 offline scene, and it's really grown into something just absolutely incredible. I've had a lot of fun with doing the races there so far, and it's still a lot of fun to watch the stuff that the others put on as well. Alex does a spectacular job, of course, with the Wawa Cup Series, the Body Armor Pro Series that's still going on right now, and coming up here in just a little bit, we have his one of his major special events, the Thanksgiving 500, which is a lot of fun year in and year out. It should be actually me, him, and Andrew that'll be commentating that race, so that ought to definitely be a very fun booth there for that. But and of course you got Nathan that's joined the squad as well, and he does some really good stuff. He runs his own series along with the stuff that he does for Alex as well, and his stuff is always usually very much fun to watch as well. And I've joined him in the booth for quite a lot of those races as well. He's joined me in the booth for quite a couple of races as well. But yeah, over there it's just been an absolutely spectacular experience over there at AG, and definitely have to give the folks so much thanks for not only having me on the team, but just putting on those races and providing for the NR 2003 community. And I'm just happy to give to the community. I'm just happy to give back to the community that gave so much to me. So yeah, definitely have to give a shout out to the folks over at AG over there. But as for online, there's definitely a lot of leagues that come to mind that I participated in. Of course, I've mentioned Score, of course, which actually just recently went under a rebrand as the Heritage Auto Racing Association. So excited to see that come up as well. But Score is where I kind of found my roots in online racing, and definitely have to give them a lot of credit over there as well. But there's some other offline leagues that I've dabbled in as well. Of course, like I mentioned, BPNR. That's usually a lot of fun over there as well. Let's see, those are the main two I think that I've really dabbled in, and some of my personal favorites. But there's also a couple more that I've kind of raced in off and on. Like I said, I'm trying to maybe make some starts here soon in the Fuel Racing League, and hopefully maybe start to make my presence known a bit more on track over there instead of in the broadcaster's booth. But we'll see how that turns out. But honestly, I probably, honestly, like I said, it's the league that I started out online racing with. So honestly, I have to give it to Dyer, Score, HARA, all that jazz for my favorite online league. But like I said, I definitely have to give BPNR a shout out as well, as I've raced in there quite a bit as well, and has a lot of close friends in there as well, and it's really tightly knit in there as well. So yeah.
Okay, and then favorite physics to watch and to drive. There's only four, so not many not many options to pick from there.
Honestly, I would say it kind of depends on the track type. I know CTS can be good for a couple tracks. Cup, I think, is really good for like speedways and stuff. And it's, honestly, I think GNS is a really good balance between all the different quirks of like Cup and CTS. It all kind of culminates into one that kind of fits the best of both worlds. So to race on, I would definitely probably say GNS, but I would probably say Cup, but also GNS is really good for that as well. And PTA is a lot of fun as well. Of course, I've ran an IndyCar series over there at AG for the past 2 years or so, and it's definitely a lot different from the other different physics types. But hey, it produces its own fun, unique style of racing, and it's produced some fun seasons so far. But if I had to pick a favorite for both, for driving, it'd probably be GNS, and for watching, I would say it would probably be Cup.
Okay. When did you do your first online broadcast and how did that come about?
I believe the first online broadcast that I did, I'm pretty sure it was with Andrew, and I want to say it was. Actually, I might have to go and check, but I think it was the Fast Renegade Pro Cup Series race at the Chicago Street Course.
Ah, yes, that
I
was a
want to say
wonderful
that.
night. Wonderful
Yeah,
night
that
of
was the
racing. Just the racing part.
yeah, just the racing part. Definitely went to wonky on the other side of things, but the racing itself was a lot of fun, and that's honestly why I've kept trying to maybe get into these online broadcast booths because it's just so much fun, not only to race but to watch online racing, and it's been a lot of fun up there in the booth with Andrew and Train. Definitely have to give those guys a huge thanks for, I guess, letting me come onto the booth and talk to them and commentate the races alongside them. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun with commentating online races. It's not something that I expected to be doing, but hey, it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely been a surprise, but it's been an absolute welcome one at that.
Heck yeah, man. It's a ton of fun. You know, you might think some people might think, well, if you're so good at racing online, why would you want to move away from it? Well, because it gets boring. It gets boring, man. Like I won 23 of 37 races at Fast this year. Like it gets boring. I won 9 of the 11 races at Fuel. Probably should have won 10 of them, but it don't matter. I still won 9 of the 11. And I had, 10 podiums out of the 11 races. My worst finish was Dega. I think it was 6th. And that's just cuz I got left at the end, which that's Dega. I expected to be left at the end. um but like even like a year ago at Fuel, between seasons 3 and 4, I won, I think it was like 18 or 19 of 22 races between those seasons, points paying races, and then I won one of the exhibitions one season too. So like it gets boring, bro. Like you start winning all the time. Like I've said it before, like I don't have the drive to go to iRacing and just learn how to drive those cars. Like I'm comfortable with where I'm at, but I also don't want to just do it all the time anymore because I'm comfortable. Like I want to do more broadcasting stuff. Like I've basically not done any commentary other than like the stuff with Andrew. Like offline wise, my last year was like I think 2024 last year, and I finished early. Like I did a bunch of races in advance, and I finished early because I was kind of already burned out with it when the year began, and I just kind of pushed to do it so that we could give FBRL Noah Hart's banner. We could give the Truck Series side of that a proper send off, which now it looks like that might be the only series that ever gets its conclusion, which I'm glad I was able to produce and do. And it was a ton of fun, but I was also pushing through burnout like a madman to get that done. And it went from giving 2 to 3 weeks between races to I was just like, I'm burnt out. I want to get this done and just do something else with my time. But I would like to dabble a little bit in the online. Probably not as much as what Andrew's doing. Andrew's doing races at leagues like every weekend. Like 2 or 3 nights a week. Like I don't have the time for that. But I will go out, maybe one league on like a Saturday or Sunday full time if they want me. And then during the week, maybe once a month during the week. But like that's really all I'm looking to do at the moment. Just because I know what burnout looks like and I don't want to just go right back to it. So but it is fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm
Like I
talking
said,
play by play. Like I'm not talking the analyst stuff. Like I've done the analyst stuff with
mhm.
Andrew. That's fun. That's its own little like that kind of just gets my brain working. But play by play, the thrill of doing play by play and just like
Oh
telling,
yeah.
showing people at home like what is happening on the track, especially at a super speedway. Like I can do a super speedway by myself. Like I don't need another person in the booth. It'll help. It'll help. Trust me. But like if the racing is exciting enough, you can do it by yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, like I said, offline racing is still definitely a huge passion of mine, and I still absolutely love it, and don't really plan on stopping doing it anytime soon. But there's just a certain unpredictability that you get with online racing that's just so much fun to watch unfold and so much fun to commentate as well. And it's kind of honestly just kind of like its own separate thing. And like I said, it's just always usually so much fun, especially with that unpredictability factor. Because, with offline races, you still don't really know what to expect, but sometimes you can get, I guess, little characteristics or quirks out of certain tracks. But offline racing, you never usually know what's going to happen until the green flag falls, and never know how the race will end until the checkered flag falls. But yeah, they're two definitely quite different things, but definitely both have their own things that make them so much fun.
Yeah, there's actually a quote I read today. I was reading about AI. The real world. Obviously, we know AI when it comes to NR. But so Jeff Bezos was saying something along the lines of the only thing that AI will never be able to replicate or replace is the ability humans have to generate ideas. And the reason that sticks out to my head in this particular conversation is because when you do offline, it's all AI, and they're programmed to run according to the LP lines and how you set up the track I. They do not deviate from that, so they don't have the human element of I'm gonna send the shit out of it because it's the last lap and I want to win this race. So there's no unpredictability really there, other than the rare cases where, well, this track might generally just be a two wide track, but sometimes the AI like to go three wide, and if you get that on the last lap going into the last corner, you're basically like you're pumped because you're like, wow, the AI did something really cool and fun for once versus the stuff they do usually 95% of the time. But when you have the human factor and you're watching the online stuff, like anything can happen because the player will do anything they can to try to improve their position. Whereas the AI are like, well, I'm in line too wide on the middle. I can't really do anything, so I'm just going to ride. I'm not going to push this guy. Yeah, I'm not going to make any moves. Versus online, guys just start pushing the guy in front of them like hell, depending on the league and the intensity of the finish. So it's definitely more fun online because of that human element. Last NR related question for you is, have you been able to meet anybody in person that you've met online?
Yes. So the first person I think that I did end up meeting up with that I met through the the NOFSRL was actually Marty Sakala, and he was a motorsports reporter. I know at the time. I'm pretty sure he still is as well. But Marty was at Bristol, and we kind of talked a little bit beforehand about the potentially meeting up, but ended up doing it under. I'm pretty sure it was one of the stage cautions, so that was definitely a lot of fun there to finally meet up with somebody that I had met there from the NR 2003 offline community. But like I said, now with of course meeting all the guys over at AG, of course we had a decent meetup at the Bristol Motor Speedway a year ago where I met Alex and I met Andrew, and that was also such a fun time as well. Really got to talk to him a little bit, get to know each other a lot more, and yeah, that was just absolutely so much fun. It was really nice to meet those guys face to face, and yeah, like I said, had a great time.
Yeah, I know Marty. I've known Marty a long time from back when I got into offline. Really,
Hey,
really cool
nice.
dude. Um, would love to meet up with him at some point. We're relatively close by. I'm in Massey's in New York. It just hasn't really come together because he's kind of upper state New York. So hopefully one day. Um, so last topic. This is our exit topic here on Who's That Driver. Is your any other interests you have away from motorsports and sim racing? Music, movies, TV shows, any other video game genres, any other niche hobbies, you name it.
Well, I guess really besides motorsports, something that I was into even earlier than that, I would say, is probably trains, railroading, and that stuff like that. Throughout childhood, I pretty much grew up watching Thomas the Tank Engine, so
All right, me
railroading
too.
really kind of stuck into my mind. So, it's still a pretty big interest, I would say, to this day. I've done a lot of, usually if a train goes by, I'll usually just sit back and watch it. I actually saw a couple as I was packing up to leave for school for home for the weekend this morning. So, that was pretty fun. But yeah, it's just something that I would say I'm casually still into. I do have, I would say, a decently sizable model railroading collection. So, hoping to maybe try and be able to lay out maybe at some point. But I mean, railroading is still something that I'm definitely into. Honestly, yeah, music is something I've been kind of getting a little bit deeper into lately. I've started to listen to a couple of bands, maybe trying to like solidify my interest. I really like rock music. Like some of my favorite bands are probably like Three Doors Down, Linkin Park.
All right, yeah.
Recently, I've really started to like One Desire, which I first
Oh,
heard of them
interesting.
actually through Wreckfest. So
Oh,
that
okay.
introduced. I'm pretty sure it was Hurt that was in Wreckfest, and that kind of led me down to some of their other songs, which are really good as well. But yeah, music is definitely a topic that's interested me in the past a little bit, and it's been fun kind of exploring all the different genres and really kind of getting to know not only what I like, but I guess just myself through music, and that's definitely been a fun journey there as well.
Yeah, I love music. I can't stop consuming new music. Sometimes it's addicting. Just listening to new music, then I'm like, hey, that one album I checked out like 7 years ago, I've listened to the hits here and there, but I haven't listened to it all the way through again. It's actually a pretty good album. I should check that out again in full. And then, that's like a good like nostalgia trip just listening to it again. Um Train wise, yeah, like I was totally into trains growing up. There's a local, it's called Edaville Railroad. Bleh. The alcohol is making it hard to talk, and I'm not even drunk. I just can't like move my tongue right. Edaville Railroad. It's in a nearby town. They would always have a Thomas the Tank Engine train set up, and we would go in the summer, and it was a fun time. Um, but like I think once I turned like 8 or 9, I had like all the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff I could have, as far as like the wooden railroad setups and stuff, and
Oh
like
yeah,
just couldn't find. They like stopped selling them in. We would always get the stuff in like one of those like craft stores that my mother would always go to for yarn and stuff. And they always had a section where they sold the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff. And then all of a sudden they stopped selling it, and we couldn't find another place nearby that sold like new stuff. So I just like literally ADHD brain was like, well, that interest is dead, and moved on. So kind of just completely fell out of the whole train thing, but I still do like I still do like trains like to a degree, and like if I hear one, I'm like looking for it, like wondering where it is. And
yeah,
funnily enough, the Thomas the Tank Engine and the Magic Railroad movie that came out eons ago, I was like randomly rewatching that earlier this year because I was like, hey, I haven't seen this in like 15, 20 years, and for some reason my brain wants to watch that movie again because growing up the movie felt like it was so long, and in actuality it's only like 70 minutes or something. So um somebody has it uploaded to YouTube in segments to get around copyright, so I just randomly watched it one night, like I think 6 months ago.
hey, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's funny, like when you watch stuff back and you're like, oh, this used to kind of scare me a little bit, and now it's like, wow, this is so
Yeah,
silly. Like This is so silly watching back. Like as an adult, you're like, oh, this is whatever. But as a kid, you're like, as a kid, I always got engrossed in the world of the movie as if I was actually living in the movie.
Uh,
And like, yeah, certain stuff was like a lot scarier back then than it was now. My dreams are like that too. Like I have very vivid dreams, and sometimes it's like I'm watching a movie, and feels like I'm there. I haven't had stuff like this happen in a while, but I used to have stuff where like it felt like I was falling, and I would wake up and I would kind of just like full body like jump off my bed for a quick sec, like just 2 inches off the bed, and I
oh
would
yeah.
just be like, oh, like I'm falling. Oh, we're good. Um, a crazy one I've had is one time it was like a futuristic like diner dream. It was really weird, but it was in like the parking lot of a Walmart that's near me. And I like left the diner and I got shot in the back with a bow, like a bow and arrow. And I shit you not, it actually felt like I got hit in the back with an arrow. I woke up and like flinched in pain, and then I was like, "Oh, it's not real." But like for that nanosecond, I was like, "Ow, my back." I just have crazy stuff like that. I've had times where, on like a scarier note, as a teenager, I had a dream once where it was like in the perspective of a movie, but it was like a slow panning upward shot of like one of the aliens from the Alien franchise, and it freaked me the frick out, and I just woke up and instantly sat up in my bed. Like that's how freaked out I was. Like it's weird what dreams like do to me. On a like final note, I had a dream recently where it wasn't necessarily like scary or sad, but like it was like the dream went from, it was like a really happy moment that was happening in the dream, and then all of a sudden it was like ripped away from me, and it was almost like the moment in the dream itself wasn't real to the nature of the dream. And then I woke up from said dream and I was just breathing heavy as all hell. And I was like, why am I freaking out? Like, this hasn't happened before. So dreams do weird stuff to me. Don't know. Have you ever had like a vivid dream like that? Or are you one of the people that you just pass out, it's all black, and then you just wake up?
Honestly, it's likes to kind of swap back and forth, I guess, between the two. Sometimes I'll just have crazy, unexplainable dreams, and sometimes it's just close my eyes, wake up. Oh, I love new day.
I think the funniest thing about, for me personally, from at least from my experience, is I'll tell people some of the crazy shit I have, and they're like, "What did you have before you went to bed?" "Nothing." "Why do you ask?" And they're like, "Nothing. No drugs?" I'm like, "No." But when I am on sometimes when you're on cold medicine, you get weird dreams because of like the pain medicine and stuff, and all the stuff that's like mixing in your brain to treat the cold. You get some
Hmm.
really weird dreams sometimes, but the fun ones are when, and these happen to me like very rarely, which I guess is maybe like once a year if I had to guess, because I dream every night. Um, but the fun ones are where I realize I'm dreaming and I'm like, this isn't real. Like, I don't have to do anything. Or like, ooh, I can do this. There was one time I had a dream, and I still have these occasionally. I don't know why. But I dream about being in high school a lot for some reason. And I had one a few years ago where I was sitting in class and I was like, wait a minute. I'm 23. I don't go to school anymore. I'm not doing shit. And I straight up told the teacher to go fuck herself. And then I woke up.
Well,
So I was like, oh, that was fun. Couldn't do that in real life. Anyway, I wasn't a bad, unruly student. I liked getting good grades in high school, but I thought that was funny. But Caleb, thank you for coming on the show. I feel like I rambled too much. Maybe alcohol and podcast isn't a great idea for me. Um, maybe I need to tone it back by one drink. Maybe just drink water next time. But definitely didn't get drunk, just a little buzzed. But all it takes for me to get going is a little buzz, it seems. But this is the part of the show where I hand it off to the guest, and feel free to shout out anybody you like.
I'll definitely have to give a huge shout out to you. I had a lot of fun here tonight. This was definitely a very interesting experience, and I really appreciate you having me on here on the show. It's like I said, been a lot of fun, and I'm definitely gonna be watching it back once it goes up to. But yeah, definitely have to give, I guess first and foremost, a huge shout out to all the guys over there on the AG side of things. Alex, Nathan, I know all those guys. You got Igor, Matt, Nathan, Stewart. You gotta get a couple of guys up in here. Let's see. Yeah, definitely have to give a huge shout out to Thomas Stroxel as well. I know I've mentioned him a couple times here tonight. Thomas might definitely have to be someone to get on here. He's had a lot of experience in offline and online racing, so he might definitely have a couple of stories to tell. But
I'm sure he
also
will,
definitely
because anytime I hear Thomas's name, I just think weapon on the track.
Oh goodness, but I definitely have to also give a huge shout out to Trey Wright as well. I've had a lot of fun the past little bit calling races on his channel, but like I said, he was one of the people who really kind of led me down the rabbit hole of NR 2003 offline. Like I said, Mission Barbecue Cup Series. His series was the first one I ever participated in, and led me into the NR offline scene. And like I said, pretty much history from there. Started participating in more series, and eventually, once I got into college, joined up alongside Alex, and I started to do offline content myself. There actually was an attempt just by myself at making offline content that didn't really, unfortunately, get far due to school constraints and stuff. But I've had a lot of fun doing what I do for Alex and all those guys over at AG, so definitely have to give all of them a huge shout out. And there's also just, I guess, friends and family, people that have supported me throughout all these years. But and of course, yeah, definitely have to give credit to the NR online and offline community, just the NR 2003 community as a whole, for, I guess, just being awesome and keeping this incredible game alive. And like I said, the NR offline community especially, you all have given so much to me, and I'm just happy to be making content, making races and stuff to give back to the community that gave so much to me. And then, of course, online, it's definitely been a very fun experience so far up to this point, and like I said, hopefully, if time allows me to, definitely would like to try and get back into the online scene. But yeah, I guess just to end this thing off, like I said, thank you so much for having me on here, and yeah, it's been very, very fun.
All right, on Caleb. Thank you for coming on. And this was.
Oh, I didn't say Andrew. Crap.
Oh, I was almost gonna remind you. I was thinking. I was like, I'm surprised he didn't
Andrew,
mention
I am
Andrew.
so sorry.
But you got him in
I've
there.
got to
Got him in there. I literally almost jokingly was like, you were going through all the first couple of names, and I was like, what about Andrew? And then I was like, I'm not going to say anything. He's probably getting to him. So that's funny.
Andrew's someone who I've really gotten to know in this past year. So like I said, met up with him at Bristol, started joining him in the booth for a couple of races, especially Thanksgiving 500, and he's definitely gotten to become a pretty close friend at this point. Definitely have to give him a huge shout out there as well.
Absolutely, Caleb. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for coming on. This was episode 27 of Who's That Driver? We'll see what's in store for episode 28. And thanks again to everybody who listens. I appreciate y'all, and have a good night.